Hi, Tammy. Hope you're well.
Hey Sid, I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good on this interesting afternoon. It's still sunny. I guess it'll get more nippier by the evening.
Yeah, I heard from a friend of mine this morning that it's actually raining back in Johannesburg. So I'm going back to some pretty cold weather.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be experiencing it myself tomorrow. I'll be taking a flight around 1 o'clock. Probably land at 2. Although in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have disclosed that.
Yeah, I would say rather stock up with something warm because it's super cold. I heard from a few people that it is quite cold. So
Oh, you able
rather
to
be
hear me?
safe. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me all right?
Okay, awesome. All right, as usual, it's cool. As usual, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Yeah, I can hear you
Thank you.
perfectly. I can hear you perfectly. So, as I
Awesome.
was just saying, it's as usual, it's always a pleasure to have you on, especially the one that you brought to my attention. To get the ball rolling, Tammy, is how would you how would you define conscious parenting and how they're different from traditional parenting styles?
Awesome. Thank you. So, conscious parenting is parenting approach. It's more focused on emotional awareness, connections, and I would say self reflections. Instead of mainly trying to control a child's behavior, parents try to understand both the child's emotions as well as be aware of their reactions to certain situations, even if they're asking them questions, be conscious of how they react. Is the child withdrawn? Is the child outspoken? Unlike traditional parenting styles, which often emphasize on obedience and authority, conscious parenting emphasizes more on empathy, I would say, over punishment, and rather guidance than forcing control rather, and it's emotional regulation over discipline. So it's very different to the traditional style, and you sort of, I would say, connect with the child before you do corrections. Understand why the child behaved in that manner, why the child reacted in that manner. It still includes boundaries. It still includes, making them aware of the consequences, but it focuses more on teaching rather than fear or shame or embarrassment.
Awesome. Why is emotional awareness so important in raising children in today's fast-changing world?
I would say emotional awareness helps children understand and express and manage their feelings in healthy ways. And in today's fast changing world, with social media and academic pressure and constant technology and the rapid changing and the exposure to the social change, children face more emotional stimulation and stress rather than, I mean, more than ever before. You look at children these days that cannot handle the stress of a situation, and there's so much of more cases of bullying in schools and so many other cases when the children can't really manage. So when parents encourage emotional awareness, children are more likely to build resilience and build their confidence, I would say, and they communicate more effectively. Like back in the day when I was growing up, I mean, there's certain things were like taboo. You would not speak to your parents about certain things. But I had something I did with my kids when they were growing up is I would do role reversals. So one weekend a month I would do role reversals where my kids were the parents for the day, and we would, go according to what they wanted. And they would we were there only if they needed to use the vehicle, or for us to drive them somewhere. But other than that, they would have the opportunity to know what we went through, and to know what it's like to be a parent. I think that is a nice example. There's so many examples that you can Google and find out how you can make your children aware. A lot of the times, a simple thing as changing a roll of toilet paper, it's like a magical thing. Some of the kids, you ask them, is this going to change itself? They don't even know where the new stock is, how to do
Mm,
things for themselves, because they're so engrossed in, like with blinkers on, they can't think
mm,
outside the box. So getting the kids involved from an early age to
mm,
manage a house, to manage a situation, you actually allowing them to communicate effectively, to handle stress and conflict better. And they develop empathy and healthy relationships, I would say. So they would step back and not hastily make a decision. They would make thoughtful decisions instead of reacting impulsively. It also strengthens the trust between the parent and the child, creating a safer space for children to ask questions, share what their struggles are, and also adapt to change. Like the example I gave of role reversals, you ask them at the end of the day, what challenged you the most? What would you do differently? I know most of the time with my kids, they would want to have takeout, or they would have the opposite, where they would want to bake and cook and do everything. But then, coming with baking and cooking, you need to understand that cleaning up the kitchen is part of the process. So, certain times they would just feel so lazy, and, oh, can we have takeout rather? So you unpack what worked for them, what didn't work for them. And in that way, they actually see what we as parents go through, what we have to sacrifice, our time, our pleasure. So you say to them, okay, at 5 o'clock, we're going to have dinner, or 6 o'clock, we're going to have dinner, at 12 o'clock, we're going to have lunch, or breakfast is at a certain time. So they need to know, they've got to adhere to that, and they see, oh, this is what my parents are going through, this is what they have to sacrifice, and taking you to the soccer ground, taking you for extramurals. They understand where you're coming from, why you get so frustrated in traffic, and and how you deal with situations as well. So that's a very nice example that you can teach your children.
that kind of relates to me a little bit. Question here from Rish Jitton right over here. Sorry about that. Oh, yeah, this. Hi, Tammy. A child's behavior is a reflection of their parents. Some children who come from troubled homes tend to be introverts, thus suppressing their emotions. Educating your kids with life hacks is important.
That is so true. Thanks, Wesh, for that. It is very, very important. And yes, you're right. A child reflects the home that they come from. And also, a lot of people say, oh, they come from a broken home. I don't believe in things like that, because a child, I grew up, or throughout my career in working in corporate, I always was around smokers, but I never liked the habit, I never picked it up. And a child, if the child has a good grounding, if the child can make their, let the child stand up for themselves, not keep shunting them off, and listening to what the child has to say. This is where the conscious parenting comes in, where you listen to your child, not keep shutting them off. And sometimes the children these days actually have so much more exposure to certain things, and you actually learn so much more from your child than, instead of shutting them off. Before, the old saying is, I'm your parent, you should listen to me, what do you know, or children should be seen and not heard. Those are like old school thinking. You need to
mm,
incorporate, you need to engage your children, I would say. Engage your children into your activities. Even if you're making a life changing decision, like thinking about maybe taking a job overseas, sit around a table and ask the child, ask your children, each and give each one their fair chance to speak. Don't interrupt, let them speak, let them express themselves. The other thing that I've noticed as well, where especially when it comes to the male kids, a lot of the fathers say, don't be a girl and don't cry. I would say no, you've got emotions, you need to express yourself. Don't shunt your children off. So having them express themselves, having them engaged and involved in a household situation, you actually let them know, what the bigger picture is. You let them, you give them a taste of what's to come, what's out there. Some people say it's a big bad world, some people say, it's
mm,
easy going. So it's for them to make a decision and ask questions. Ask the children, how does this make you feel? Don't do open-ended questions or close-ended questions. I would say, how are you feeling? You're going to get okay, good. How did this make you feel?
mm,
So if the child is forced to give you more than just a one word answer. Even
mm,
when you bring the child from school, how was your day? Fine. Rather say,
so,
what particular event that you enjoyed at school today? Which subject intrigued you the most? So you're prompting them to
mm,
speak. So, though you need to look at things like that, where you engaging the child in a more
mm.
than a one word answer.
Yeah, it's more about positively challenging the child's intellect.
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. How can parents avoid unintentionally passing their own fears, traumas, or limiting beliefs onto their children?
So I would say parents can reduce this by becoming more aware of their own emotional patterns, and how
Okay.
they react to situations. So it's strongly around awareness. And children often absorb not what just parents say, but how they respond to stress, fear, failure, relationships, work issues, neighbor issues, whatever it is. So I would say some like helpful practices that you can engage in is reflect on your own childhood. See what your experiences are, what your beliefs are. How would you change certain things? And pause before reacting. You know, the old saying of you've got two ears and one mouth, use it in that way. Listen, not to respond. You don't,
Mm,
every situation, every issue does not need an immediate answer. Listen to what it is. Some of the things don't even need you to respond to certain things. Rather, listen, digest. Do I need to respond? Don't I need to respond? You can just be neutral to any situation. Pause before reacting emotionally. I know a lot of people that actually just are like one of those chihuahua dogs. They just yabbity yabbity yabbit without listening to what the question is, to what the reaction. Most of the time, it doesn't need a reaction. It doesn't need a follow up. Certain things, it's just for you to listen. And when it comes to kids and you have stuffed up in some way, or you've said something wrong, don't be too proud to apologize. And that makes us human. You sit them down and say, I'm sorry, this I should have handled this better. So often, parents come home from a tough day at work and the child asks you certain things, and you just you want to bite the heads off.
mm,
Go back and apologize. Don't be too proud. So, this as well creates that effect on the child when they are faced with a situation. It's human nature. We can, we can falter, we can backtrack, but what you need to do is how quickly do you get back on your feet? Avoid, I would say, fear based messages as well, like, um, you'll never succeed in this, or I
mm,
know when it came to like my son's choosing subjects, they were surrounded by other parents that said, ah, being a musician is not going to pay you, or doing this here is not going to pay you, or being a DJ is not going to pay you, or being a dancer.
mm,
You look at what your child's strong points are. You
mm,
never know. I mean, look at Tyler. She's a South African born. She was going to go and study, and look at her music career today. So you never know where your child's future lies. I would say give your child carte blanche and be there as a pillar of strength, advice, support, whatever the child needs. Let the child go and experience what their niche area is. One good thing that I would suggest to anybody choosing subjects, choosing careers, if you know somebody, if your child wants to be an actuarius, look at somebody who is an actuarius, ask them to do a job shadowing. A friend of mine, her son wanted to be a neurosurgeon, and what she did is she took him into the hospital, or introduced her to the friend who is in the same sort of category, took him into a hospital only to find out that this child is cannot handle blood. And he went in there, he saw somebody coming in, I think with a stab wound or something, and this child just passed out. So he actually changed from being wanting to become a neurosurgeon to now being an actuarist. So you need to, it's the exposure as well. Don't think that, oh, my child is too young for this, or my child is not ready for this. So avoid things around fear. Let them experience it. But always have, let them know that you are there, you are their backup. And allow children to develop their interest. You never know what might trigger something, like the one child, he used to doodle, and he used to draw these tiny little figures on like tiny, I call it like a dice size, what do you call it, like a frame or something like that. And he became such a famous influencer, showing his those little things actually started selling so well, and he became a multimillionaire in dollars. So you never
wow.
know where your child's future is. The goal
Mm,
is not to be a perfect parent, but to be a parent that is aware and does not bring old fears and
mm,
unhealthy patterns and repeated nonsense into reality, and, oh, I did this and it's never going to work, or you cannot do this. Don't say cannot. Say
mm.
go ahead, try it out. Don't start the child off with something fear based.
So in a nutshell, parents need to move with the times in a good way, not in a bad
Absolutely,
way.
for sure.
Awesome. What are some practical ways parents can build deeper trust and communication with their children?
Oh, a big thing for me is listening.
Mm,
Listen without immediately judging, and don't lecture, don't interrupt. So as I said, if you got children, and give each child a chance to speak, to express themselves without. I know one family that actually has like a little, like almost like a little baton type of thing. So if you've got it, it's your turn to speak. Only when you hand that over to the next person, then the next person can speak. So you can incorporate those sort of things. So if the one person has got the baton, it's their turn to speak. You do not interrupt, you do not judge. And sometimes, as parents, we've got so much going on. You can make notes. You can make notes,
mm,
or, like, reaffirm, is this what you meant? Because sometimes kids cannot express themselves very clearly. Another example that I will share with you is, I've got two sons. And sometimes when it came to something a little bit personal, they'll feel shy to speak to me. So what I did is I used to put two dining room chairs back to back. And so I will say, tell me about the story or tell me what it is you want to say. So they're not facing you directly to feel shy or ashamed or anything. They would tell me what is affecting them, and I would give them feedback, or I would ask, how does this make you feel? What prompted this? Do you want me to get involved? Don't I know there's also with parents, the first thing, if it's another child or whatever, the first thing the parent wants to do is get involved and make a big hoo-ha of something that's really doesn't need meddling in. So you ask the child, like say if it's a bullying incident, is it affecting you? How do you feel about it? Has it happened more than once? Do you want me to get involved? Do you want me to get the teachers involved, the principal involved? Let me know how I can readdress this. And if it's happened more than once, then you tell the child, you say, as a parent, I want to get involved because if this is happening to you, you are telling me about it. What if there's another child who cannot speak to their parents about it? Let's address it. So, give the child an outcome or something, like, okay, if we don't do this, this is a possible consequence. If we do this, we are helping so many other children. You don't know. So give them multiple scenarios if they are coming to confide in you, and let them know always that you've got your back. The other thing is validate their feelings. How does this make you feel? Do you want me to address this? you I mean, sometimes kids, they do feel ashamed of their parents, or they whatever it is. Then listen to what they say. Do you want me? Don't you want me? You can very discreetly, and you can also give them different options. Okay, I will do this, but in a very discreet manner, not mentioning names. So ask them, or how and what, why, and I would say throughout the whole process, stay as calm as possible. Don't get irate and not listen to the child, the whole thing that the child is telling you. Ask open ended questions, and admitting mistakes and apologizing when necessary. Say if the child is coming to you with an issue, say, I do apologize for not noticing this, or I do apologize for not inquiring about this. But and thank them, acknowledge, say thank you for bringing this to me, thank you for trusting me enough to bring the situation to me. Let the child know, give them that space of comfort, that and encourage children to express themselves openly, even if it means them crying. Let them show their emotions. It's totally all right. And when you are talking to your child, this is a huge thing that I am pedantic about, is you put away your phone. Put away your phone and you tell the child, your time means more to me than anything. Put away your phone, not be looking at your emails or your WhatsApp, whatever it is. Make the child know that your time is dedicated to listening to them. Make them feel special. And this is where the trust grows, where the children feel heard, and feel not only heard but respected. And they feel, that emotional safety, and they feel accepted. So, like when, and they also mimic how we behave towards struggles. So understand that you need to let them know at any given time they can come to you and speak to you. So I've seen, children or parents that shunt their children off, and but also teach your children respect as well. Like, I was often speaking to people when I came back home from work, or because I've got so many organizations and so forth, and I would always tell my children, you can interrupt me, but you say, excuse me. Your child is important. They need to know that they're important. My child would come to me and say, "Excuse me, mommy, can I ask you a question?" And whoever I'm on the phone with, I say, "Please hold on." And my child comes first, no matter what. So I would let them know I need to attend to something with my child. If it's something that can be done later, I will say, "Yes, I've heard you. Can you give me 2 minutes to finish this call and I will get back to you?" Acknowledge the child. Don't scream at them and say, "Can you not see that I'm on the phone?" Or make your child a number one priority.
Power of positive communication.
Absolutely.
I love it. Okay. How can conscious parenting help children develop confidence, emotional intelligence, and a strong sense of self?
I would say conscious parenting helps children feel seen, heard, and accepted for who they are, which builds a strong foundation and confidence and self-worth. It gives them that sense of confidence that says, my parents have got my back. And you encourage that emotional expression and teach the children how to understand their feelings. Parents develop this emotional intelligence and the ability to manage their emotions. So you need to become aware of what triggers your child in a negative way or in a positive way, and how you empathize with others, how you handle a stressful situation. So remember, you've got two eyes watching you all the time, so you need to be conscious about how you are reacting to the situations, because that child mimics what you do. And so I would say, trust. I always tell this to my kids is, whether you have done something wrong or whether you've done something good, tell me the truth. Children tend to lie. They do tend to lie. Tell me the truth so I know how to help you, even if you are in the wrong. Always tell me the truth. Then we've got that bond. So I know how to help you make a decision, and we make a decision with confidence. So allow them to express themselves without resilience, when it comes to you, without shame, giving them that sense of freedom, almost like a platform to say, "You are safe here. Whatever happens here is between us." And when children grow up in an environment of respect, empathy, and healthy boundaries, I would say, they're more likely to feel secure in who they are, their capabilities, and you will notice how they handle life's challenges in a so much more confident manner without letting their get them down.
Uh, that's so true. Lastly, what advice would you give parents who are trying to heal and grow personally while also raising children?
I would say, especially with like kids under 12, I would say be patient with yourself. There's so many books out there, but you can read tons of books, but nothing prepares you for your own parenting style. And there's no one size fits all when it comes to birthing process, pregnancies, adoption, foster homes. There's no one size fits all, and there's no parent child relationship that is the same. So be kind with yourself, I would say. And growth, allow for growth of yourself along with raising your children. Don't it's like, not counting your chickens before they hatch, kind of. So what you need to know is, there's no parent that is perfect, or there's no parent which is a great parent or a good parent or a bad parent. We learn as we go along, and become self aware, how you deal with situations, how you deal with
Yeah.
certain matters, be it emotional, be it in a work front, be it in a relationship. And as I mentioned previously, apologize and repair conflicts with children immediately. So this teaches them that, yes, It's human nature to it's human nature to do something wrong, but how quickly do you get up, dust yourself off, and move on? You get a lot of kids that actually wallow in the negativity. They don't know how to move forward. They don't know how to brush themselves off or dust themselves off and pick up the pieces and move on. You find this a lot with relationships as well. So you take care of your emotional, your mental health, and children will benefit when parents are supportive and regulated. I would say you can't be on a high the one day and extreme low the next day. And also be flexible to break certain cycles. You know, if things has happened when you were young, when you were growing up, and you had that stereotype of growing up in a certain type of home, you can break that pattern. See what works. A lot of people now move abroad, they are expats. So see what works for you, what doesn't work for you, how you change patterns, how you change religious beliefs according to, you know, parenting style, etc. And this, give yourself, I would say, give yourself permission to learn and grow. And children don't need flawless parents. There is no such thing as flawless parents. They benefit
Mm.
most from parents who are willing to reflect, grow, and communicate honestly. Honesty is so paramount when it comes to raising your kids. And I would say creating a safe environment is so important for them.
Yeah, couldn't have put it better myself. All I gotta say, once again, thanks for your time, Tammy, and I'll see you in early June.
Absolutely. Take care. Love and light to all the listeners and viewers.